welcome Professor Prafulla Y. Agnihotri. He's professor in the marketing group in IIM Calcutta. Professor Agnihotri is going to talk to us about reinventing marketing strategies in a borderless world. Welcome to the summit, Professor Agnihotri. Now, just a question that I want to throw to you before you start. Because of the pandemic-related supply chain disruptions, it was believed that some companies and countries also would start looking inwards and become hyperlocal. Has this turn happened? And then what happens to their marketing strategies if they were these global companies?
That's a great question. Okay. And, you have put directly a googly to me right on the first time when I've come to batting. Okay. I've taken the guard and immediately I've faced a very bad googly. Okay. So, let me immediately go on a back foot and defensive mode and say, yes, that has started happening. Then there is also a sort of, because of pandemic you referred to, there is also a sort of globally anti-China move, and I'm sure because of which many countries, including India, are likely to be benefited. Okay, and I will not be surprised if many companies would shift their manufacturing base from China to elsewhere. And in my humble opinion, India should take advantage of that and grab as many manufacturing companies as possible to India, because no country can grow without a strong, solid manufacturing base. Whatever China has done, whatever China is in position right now, financial position, I'm told that they have huge reserves of US dollars that even the US government themselves, okay, is mainly because of the manufacturing. Okay, and we got to encash on this opportunity. After such a nice interactive session, okay, by Professor Seema, uh, which I was listening, it was really very highly educating, and I myself felt highly educated and enlightened, especially in the sphere of artificial intelligence and digital marketing. I did not know much about it, but I'm really glad that I attended this session. And I must thank the organizers for inviting me to this so that I could listen to them as well. Reinventing marketing strategies in a borderless world. Okay, please feel free to stop me, feel free to ask me questions. Okay, I will make my level best to answer them. Okay, if you see the business today, business is highly dynamic. There's an explosion of technological innovation. I call these factors which I've listed over here, I call them as drivers. If you see these four drivers, okay, they are driving the whole world towards something. For example, explosion of technological innovations. Okay, markets are getting globalized day to day. If you see any industry, take any industry, be it consumer products, be it industrial products, you will find top five players in that industry competing with each other globally. Okay, then it's an era of deregulation. We have seen banking deregulation some time back. We have seen telecom deregulation, and now we are also hearing about airlines deregulation. It has already happened in India. There was a time when we had no choice but only for Indian Airlines to travel within the country. Today, we can choose any airline to fly by within the country. Okay, and the demographics is also changing. Okay, within India itself, if you see all this not only globally but also in India too. Okay, we are part of the global world. Okay, there is more diversity. Most of the families are two-age earner families, and there is increasingly global workforce. I live in my, I know I work in Kolkata. My family lives in Mumbai, and they live in a suburb called Goregaon. And very close to my household, there is a big society which has come up. Okay, which with more than 1,500, 2,000 flats. Okay, of Oberoi Group. And today I see quite a few white people with white skin jogging on the road and walking as if sometimes I feel I'm in Europe. Okay, just about 5 years ago, this was a rarity. You would not see many foreigners working in India or opting to work in India. At IIM Calcutta, we have German professor teaching over there. When I was at IIM Trichy some time back, we had a French professor who had opted to come to India and teach there for 5 years. So it's not that we just are going abroad, even the labor is also getting globalized and the borders are getting removed. Okay, actually it all began when Kenichi Omi, the Japanese author, the Japanese strategist who had studied at Harvard Business School, wrote a beautiful book titled The Borderless World. That was way back in 1988, and everyone started thinking, if world is really going to become borderless, what he predicted in 1988, we are seeing it coming true after about 30 years. Okay, so these drivers lead to uncertainty, turbulence, and rapid change in the business scenario. Okay, and look at it, we have far more consumer choices. Okay, there is this is an era of mergers and acquisitions. Then there are joint ventures. Okay, product life cycles are shortening. My grandfather owned an ambassador car and I used it even after 30 to 40 years. But today these youngsters change cars every 3 years, even if nothing has happened to it. Okay, just because a newer model has been launched. I know average age of, I was talking to someone in Samsung, average age of a mobile phone that a person uses is just 2 years, maximum 2.5 years. And that's why they have to keep changing their handsets and their new models have to be launched in India. Okay. So, uh, and of course, there is a record number of business failures. Those who cannot cope up with these dynamics, this fast changing environment, they succumb to these pressures. And then all these subsequently lead to, okay, companies who need to be fast, responsive, and adaptive. Okay, so more and more organizations are becoming flat. Organizations are downsizing themselves. They have become more quality conscious. Employees are getting empowered because you have to work fast. You cannot afford to be like an anaconda. You have to be like an Indian cobra who would sense changes in the environment and be proactive even before the change has taken place. Okay, and so on. So, what is this borderless world? Okay, if I were to answer this question by giving you an example, I'll simply quote it as basically, it's like shops in duty free shops on the airport. What you see on these airports in duty free shops is nothing but borderless world. Okay, what we see there, we see brands from all over the world, and we see consumers from all over the world buying brands irrespective of their country of origin. Okay, and that is what we call as borderless world. Certain factors have led to this borderless world, especially, and we have to all thank internet for that. Okay, internet has fast brought the world closer. Okay, there was a time when it used to take 5 years or 10 years for an innovation to travel from a developed country to a developing or less developed country. Today it happens in few months. Okay, by sitting at my home, I know what my brothers and sisters in the US are consuming. Okay, and I aspire to do that. This has further triggered by language. English by far and by most, has been accepted as universal language. A friend of mine who is a chemical engineer working in China just asked his wife, who was a primary teacher of English here in India. Okay, he asked her to leave her job and join him at China. Why? We were all surprised. He says because the English teachers in China draw more salary than even the best quality chemical engineer from IIT Bombay. And his wife joined him and she started earning more than him just because of the requirement of English. Way back till 2011, I used to teach in a couple of schools in France. And in that school, in those schools, I had students from China also attending my sessions. And I used to actually dislike them initially in 2000 when I started teaching over there because they were not very fluent in English. And to make the matter worse, as you must have seen, I speak a little faster than the average speed. And therefore, every time whenever I would see their faces confused, I used to spell the word on the board. And then They would simply open their digital dictionaries and type in that word. And then whoever would get that word, the whole class, they would start chow 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 and explain the meaning of that word in Chinese. And they used to stop my flow and the speed of the class. Even an average French student used to be more fluent than these Chinese guys in the class. And students from all over the other places like England or other European parts or America, USA, and I used to feel bored till then. Okay? And I just did not enjoy my classes there. But last when I went there was in 2011, and in 2011 I was surprised to see Chinese student quite fluent in English compared to all other students in the class. They had long overcome, okay, their French counterparts. Okay, so language has also brought us together, and most importantly, international travel. Just imagine about 20 years ago, traveling abroad or going to a foreign country into inverted commas used to be a dream of an average middle class Indian. Today, most of the Indians, most of the average middle class Indians have traveled at least to one country outside. And traveling abroad is not a big thing. At one point of time, in the marriage market, foreign returned used to fetch a premium. No, foreign return, he's a foreign return guy. Today, foreign return means so what? Is that type of situation. Okay, and the world is really not only becoming borderless, but it is also shrinking. Brands like Gucci, brands like Armani, we had not even heard of them few years ago. And today, in the local shopping mall over here, which is just 200 meters from my home, we have these shops selling them. Apple laptops, Apple computers have just become commonality. And they are launched almost at the same time in India as they are launched in the US, unlike in the past, where it would take about few months for this type of innovations to travel to a developing country. Okay, and that's what I always say. Duty-free shops are a glimpse of what a borderless world would be. I must acknowledge both these pictures I have taken only for this session from the internet. Wherever possible, I have given the source, but I think the first picture is from Dubai International Airport, website of Dubai International Airport. So, what is the new mantra with which these firms and marketing managers like you have to work in a borderless world? I call it global standardization. It's global standardization which we must aim at. Okay. Why? Because customer needs are homogeneous. There is a global market segment available in the customers. How many of you watched Friends when you were a little younger, maybe 5 years ago? How many of you watch Game of Thrones? And maybe when you become a little older, or if you are with your parents, you would watch My Family. Okay. Naturally, look at even the entertainment segment has become quite common. Okay, language has enabled us to come closer. Okay, and this global market segment have uniform needs, uniform demands. Naturally, why do you need to change your product? Then most of the companies, as I mentioned earlier, who operate in global world have consistent brand image. The moment I say Sony, the same thing comes to your mind that an American or a Japanese would come to, would realize. The moment I say LG or the moment I say Samsung, I don't need to explain anything. You understand what exactly is meant by them. Okay. Then there is a communication and distribution infrastructure available. Okay. All over the world today, we can reach, thanks to internet, to any customer for that matter. Just the other day, I had bought a particular product. Let me not name it, okay, because obviously for the name, a brand name, and there was some problem malfunctioning, and I happened to log into his website, and I didn't realize that I had logged into American website. And within 12 hours, I got a message from their American that website to which I had lodged my request for servicing. Okay, that that I had reached the American website and they gave me address of Indian website because my IP address came from India. Okay, so Indian website, and they just asked me to get in touch with them. Not only that, they had sent a copy of my communication to the Indian counterparts, and by end of the day, I got a call from Indian counterpart of that company asking me when they should come for servicing or rectifying the problem that I was facing with the product. Okay, so that's the availability of communication and distribution infrastructure. And you need communication infrastructure. You're all marketing guys, so I don't need to explain this to you, to reach out to your consumers. Ultimately, what matters is consumers' mind share. And how will you get that consumers' mind share unless there is availability of effective communication channels? And having got mind share is not sufficient. You have to give the product also. That value proposition has to be delivered to him. And for that, you need distribution infrastructure. Today, all over the world, we find good distribution infrastructure. Some parts of the world, including India, lack maybe the cold chain, but we are working on it, and very soon we shall see them. Okay, the same type of products, like when I used to live in France, okay, for those teaching assignments, I used to love the choco milk that they sell in France. Okay, just go to the supermarket, okay, buy that choco milk, bring it to your apartment, keep it in your refrigerator, and in the early in the morning or even after you come back from your teaching, just drink that choco milk or those custards and other things that are available there. Okay, after your dinner, just have one bottle, one box of custard and eat one piece of it. We don't have that right now, not because we don't have raw material. We have abundant quantity of milk available, but the problem is we don't have appropriate distribution infrastructure to leverage that channel. Then there is a preference for lower price and high quality. Who would mind buying a Gucci bag or a Armani perfume or Armani suit? The only problem that comes between these brands and me is the price. So if you making it for the whole world, obviously the economies of scale would make the price lower, and obviously, okay, obviously you would like to buy that product, and further that would develop the market for it. Okay, possibility of achieving significant economy. I mentioned that low customization and narrow product line leads to significantly lower cost. I told you marketing cost especially would be low, production cost would be low, and of course today we find most of the government regulations are uniform throughout the world. Okay, please feel free to stop me, friends, and interact with me. Otherwise, I'll keep talking. Okay, unfortunately, I can't see you, so your physical presence is not there. So if you don't want to listen to me, the best part of it is ask questions or contribute something. You can share your experiences. Many of you may be working with multinational companies, so feel free. Okay, let there be an interactive session. And I also promise that after a couple of sessions, once I set the tone, we'll have more and more discussion on cases and live examples. Okay. So basically, these three drivers which I told you, namely language, internet, and international travel, has led to a global platform for industries to go all over the world and look beyond their home country. Okay, and that is what exactly started with globalization. There was a very good author, and I'm really fond of him, by the name George Yip. He had given 4 factors, and he felt that industry should look for these factors which would drive them globally, and he called them as market drivers, okay, cost or economic drivers, government drivers, and of course competitive drivers. Actually, whatever I covered just now, I had covered these 4 factors. Okay, these 4 factors. Let us see how they tend to work in a global market. Though I have said that, I must add one rider to this, that when you are following a global market, okay, the way Kenichi Omi suggested, the way Ted uh, 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 Levitt, Theodore Levitt suggested there is a small hitch to it. Different countries in the world are bestowed with different cultural values, and overlooking cultural differences can lead to embarrassing and disastrous mistakes. Can you see this slide? Can you see this photograph? See the way when Nike launched their Air brand of walking shoes, the creative director must have been terribly happy with the way he had written these cursive letters like Air. But then look at this. Do you know what it means? If you know Arabic, you would know this means Allah in Arabic script. And when this consignment went to Saudi Arabia, just imagine the Saudi Arabian distributor opened the box, and when he saw the first shoe and he saw that Air, you can imagine what must have happened to him. He immediately put that shoe back in the box and sent the boxes back to the US. And USA had to destroy the entire consignment. USA means Nike had to destroy the entire consignment. Okay. So, overlooking cultural mistakes can lead to disaster for a global market. And ask anyone in Nestle, they will tell you the same thing. Coffee is coffee is coffee is coffee. Go anywhere in the world, coffee is called as coffee, and the moment you say coffee, the same drink will be given to you. But let me tell you, the same drink will not taste the same, because the taste of coffee changes from place to place. Nescafe that you drink in France is so strong and bitter that you will not drink it again unless you like that taste. It took some time for me to develop that taste. And on a lighter note, honestly, before I developed that taste, I developed constipation. Only after I overcame that constipation, I started liking that strong bitter coffee that is sold in France. But go to Germany, just an adjoining country, or Italy, nearby country, okay, the coffee tastes different. Because coffee, Nestle understands that coffee is drunk for the taste of it. Okay, and it's a flavor-based drink. Naturally, you got to manage that in the countries that you operate in. And that's why I always say, when brands meet with culture head on, culture is the sole survivor. There are no two opinions about it. Never take panga with culture. Accept the culture as given factor and operate around it. Okay. Never try to change culture. McDonald's is the best example. Okay. I have shot this photograph. I don't know how many of you are from Mumbai. Anyone from Mumbai over here? I was in Mumbai then. It was way back in 96, 97, 97 I suppose, when McDonald's had just started that their first outlet in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai as they call it. Okay. And second outlet they opened. They were about to open in this place. Okay. Hey, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are perfectly audible.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah,
because I don't see anything moving in the chat. Is it after impact of this excellent session delivered by Professor Seema Gupta? If that is the case, then next time I'll request the organizers not to keep me after eloquent speaker like Seema Gupta. Okay. Yeah. So please feel free to stop me. This is what I had seen in a place called Vile Parle. And in Mumbai, with the entire city. Thank you, Vinaya. Thank you so much for your courtesy. Okay. In a place like Mumbai, where the city is divided into two parts, okay, east and west, the railway line divides it. West side is the side which faces the sea, and east side is the opposite side. Vile Parle West is an area. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much, Gitu. You are all marketing guys. I understand, guys and girls, so I know. Okay. Thank you so much, Prasenjit. Do we have made, because your name sounds familiar, Prasenjit Mukherjee. Of course, Prasenjit is quite not so common name, but Mukherjee is quite common name in Kolkata, and I have lived long in Kolkata. So may have known at least several Prosenjits, but I don't know whether Prosenjit Mukherjee. But the moment I saw that name earlier, also it just struck me somewhere.
I'm from Delhi.
You're from Delhi, okay, fine,
Yep.
maybe the name similarity. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, friends. Okay, we teachers are like classical singers, you know. We can go on and on if there is an interested and interesting audience. But the moment you feel that audience is not interested in what you're speaking, or there is a gap between the audience and you tend to switch off. Okay, that's why I was just trying to ensure that if you're with me. Okay, yeah. So, and I saw this photograph there way back in '97. Second or third McDonald outlet was about to open over there. It had not yet opened also. They had just put a banner there, opening shortly, McDonald's, and outside this thing was going. Now we have to understand that if you are international marketeer, where are you opening that shop? Ville Parle West. What is that locality? Predominantly Gujarati Jain people live over there. And you know Jain community, they don't even eat garlic or onions. Okay, forget about non-vegetarian items. And you are starting McDonald's over there. Naturally, political parties were quick to cap on that, and they said no McDonald's here. It's not McDonald's, it's Biff Donald's. Okay, and so on. French fries, 100% non-vegetarian. Okay, and in such surroundings, McDonald's, which traditionally sells largely beef and pork, has to sell its products. Go to Ahmedabad. I always call McDonald's as a great international marketeer. Go to Ahmedabad, Ashram Road, and what do we find there? McDonald's is a pure veg restaurant. Anyone from Ahmedabad can go and witness that. Pure veg restaurant. Because they know most of the people, most of these Ahmedabadis, Gujaratis would prefer a vegetarian restaurant, and they won't even like to go to a restaurant which serves non-veg, for the fear that maybe the same utensils might have been used to make vegetarian food, and therefore they would not simply even visit that. Okay. As a result, McDonald's changed when they came to India. Whenever I used to tell my French and American students that McDonald's is positioned as family restaurant in India, they just would not believe me. But McDonald's realized that if at all they have to work in India, they have to work around this concept of family. Traditionally, or even now for Indians, except few youngsters and millennials, okay, those who are in your 20s and early 30s, okay, for rest of them, eating out is a family occasion. The family decides today we'll go out and eat in a restaurant, and they plan which restaurant, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so under these circumstances, McDonald's way back in 1997 came out with this commercial, and just look at it. You are all marketing guys. Look at it from the brand point of view. Look at the way they were changing the brand. Look at the way they were changing their brand promise, okay, and brand offering. Let's have a look at it. I'm only skeptical since we have changed the platform to Zoom. I'm really concerned whether you will be able to hear the voice. But let's hope that you will be able to hear the voice. If not, even if you see the pictures, you will understand that. Mind you, this ad was shown in 1997 when McDonald's started their operations here in India.
Professor Prafulla, you have to take your computer voice. There is a button. You can click and the voice can come. The art voice is not coming. Art sound is not coming.
No, actually, that's what I told you. This is the problem with Zoom. You know, if you have got a video embedded in your presentation, Zoom doesn't deliver the voice. Audio is not delivered, only the video is delivered. That's what exactly I said. Had we be on the earlier platform, it would have worked better. Okay. Yeah, basically you saw what exactly was the case. That's what I told you earlier, because I knew Zoom doesn't have this issue. Zoom has this issue. Okay. Unless I had to send this video earlier. That's what we do when I take classes on Zoom. I send a video earlier to the studio and then that is played separately, or I play it separately by taking it out from the file.
Yes, sir. You warned us earlier about the audio might not come.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Format, but I think we
basically
understand
it's about a child who cannot perform in his school function and therefore he is really dejected. His father takes him to McDonald's and he recites it again and the whole mood changes. Look at the family orientation. Is it the same McDonald's which sells burgers, hamburgers, etc. on the go on highways and airport in their home country? Look at the way they have changed. And that's why I always appreciate that. And I always say it's a very curious case of McDonald's. If you see the basic elements that we discuss in branding, okay, they differ from country to country. Look at the corporate slogan. I am loving it. Product and services. No beef, no pork in India. If you sell beef, India Hindus won't come. If you sell pork, Muslims won't come. And if you leave aside Hindus and Muslims, very small minority is left, which may not be really profitable for this at the cost of Hindus and Muslims. And therefore they had to invent Mac Aloo Tikki. And if at all India has given something to the rest of the world, among other things, Mac Aloo Tikki is also one of them. Okay, more emphasis on wages. Positioning, most importantly, is family positioning. Okay, family restaurant. Every time they show family restaurant, India is the first country where they started celebrating birthdays of kids. Okay, and that too at an astonishingly high price. Okay, and similarly they have changed pricing, distribution. Remember that Dharmendra's ad, Mera wala price. Okay, Hamare Zamane ka, pricing, distribution. They have started home delivery. McDonald's offering home delivery in a particular country. Have you ever heard of anything of that type? Okay, media, advertising execution, everything is changed. Change is the name of the game. Being proactive, understanding the customer sentiments, respecting the culture, and thereby gaining that competitive advantage. Absolutely, you are right, Abhijit. Let's look at few more examples, few more cases, and that will endorse what exactly you are saying. If you are not close to where the customer's heart is, you are far away from him. And that's what we always say in branding, if you remember. Okay, a campaign or a message which gains consumer's heart backs the consumer. It's the heart that matters the most. Okay.
Professor, so we are actually running short of time, so we'll have to
sum up. But you had given me 30 minutes. You can't cut it short now. Let me at least finish 20 minutes.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Look at this picture and look at the difference in these two pictures. I have taken it from a book basically, and that's why the scanning is slightly gone off the tangle. Look at the minute changes. The brand is same, Drucker Noir, by Guy Laroche. Despite going there for so many times, I still have difficulty in pronouncing these French names. Look at the hand of a man. Look at the fingers of this lady. How tightly she has gripped his forehand. Okay. Look at the position of brand, Drucker Noir, and definitely the language tells us that this is from France. Okay. Literally translated, it means the seductive power of our perfume. Okay. And look at this ad. Same brand, same brand positioning, position in which the brand name is mentioned. Same gentleman, but he's fully clothed. He's fully clothed, and her fingers are barely touching his hand. Maybe in Saudi Arabia, a minute change. But you know why you have to make this change? Otherwise, perhaps your generation won't know, but there are a couple of ads who had created a big uproar here in India, in Mumbai. Okay, one was MR Coffee ad, and the other was, does anyone know which ad? Tough Shoes campaign. Well, Tough Shoe campaign had at least something objectionable, if at all. Not in my eyes, but in the eyes of so-called Sanskruti Rakshak. You know, understand Hindi, Sanskruti Rakshak, the guardians of culture. Because in that ad, they had shown Milind Soman and Madhu Sapre, the top two models of that time. This was way back early 90s. Okay, and they were standing very close to each other without wearing anything except pair of shoes in their feet, and a python covering the strategic portions of their body. I can't even show this ad over here. And when I showed this ad while teaching a similar subject in France, and I said this ad was banned, they asked me why. Is it because they used a python and which they shouldn't have used? Milind Soman ad. Yes, Anita, you are absolutely right. Poor Milind Soman and Madhu Sapre were visiting Bombay High Court for more than 10 years. Ultimately, when the petitioner stopped coming, and the court dropped that case without yielding anything. And when I showed that ad in France and we were discussing about international advertising, okay, a student few weeks down the line showed me exactly the same campaign for a local brand of shoes from a French magazine. Exactly the same, except the models were local, not Indians. And I realized the origin of that campaign. So such type of things can attract attention, and your brand may get into a wrong publicity. Let's look at India-centric innovations by multinationals who are operating in India because of the typical condition. Can you see the picture? That was the problem. Gillette is the case at hand. Gillette decided that Indian market is a big market, but they were finding it difficult to make an entry into that market because of the cost. So they specifically invented, I use the word invented, not even developed, a special type of razor, considering the quality of beard that and the skin that Indians have, okay, and tested it, being a Boston-based company, and tested it on the Indian students of Indian origin studying in MIT Sloan, and then they realized that the feedback was perfect, awesome. They decided to go ahead and launch the brand in India, and when they launched, they realized that there were no takers for it. The product failed. Extensive survey was conducted, and in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and there one of them shot this photograph, and they realized the problem. In tier 2 and tier 3 cities, not like Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, Chennai, Bangalore, etc., but in smaller cities, people still don't use tap water for shaving. They take water in a small container, they have a brush, they brush it, they dip that brush in the water and again use it, and the razor is also dipped in that small container which contains water and use it. As a result of which they realized the problem was the razor was not getting cleaned properly, which would have taken place had they used the running tap water, okay, and therefore the man wasn't getting the same pleasure of shaving. They improvised on that after getting the learnings and came out the solution. And look at the price. They launched it for just 15 rupees a pack, trial offer. Okay, and it helped Gillette go down to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities where the real market lies. Another example, Chocos, but for want of our time, I will not explain it more. We all know Chocos. That's the pack in which it was launched. I've told you the price of that pack also. Okay. But the problem was they were not making much profit. Ultimately, when, what was the name of the lady? I had met her. Ms. Sangeeta Pendulkar took over as managing director for India-centric operations. She understood the Indian market and she said, if I need that growth that we are looking for, it's not metros that's going to give me great, because till that time the distribution was restricted only to metros. Okay, I need to go to the bottom of the pyramid. And how can I make it affordable? He says, if they cannot afford to buy this big pack, I'll give them small pack, one-time use pack for ₹10. And then that was a game changer. Okay, that was a game changer. And Chocos started selling like hotcakes in those kinds. They were getting maximum demand from these places, less than even what they were getting from metros. Yes, you are absolutely right. Maggie aligning itself 2 minutes. Absolutely, you're yes. Piyush, Parle-G I did not take because basically it's an Indian company. Okay, I'm looking at global companies and how they reinvented their marketing strategies. Okay, to operate in a borderless world. So, to sum up, whatever that I have said, what exactly I have said, this slide will sum up. Why do products fail or succeed in the borderless world? Social and cultural factors, market profiling, I explained to you. This is what I explained to you, but without using theoretical words. Okay, level of economic development and consumers' attitude towards foreign brands, reputation of the foreign brand, and so on. And of course, don't forget the host government attitude also. Okay, it also plays a major role. Okay, and lastly, I started with Kenichi Omi. Let me end with Susan Douglas, another expert in international marketing arena. And what she says is, one must standardize whatever he or she can and adapt whatever he or she must. Thank you. My brand is classic example worldwide. Our software plans are different, but for India, we have launched cost-effective plans depending on the need of the user on pay for what you use order. You are absolutely right, Anita. I did not cover that, but there are so many other factors. You know, we always say pest, political and legal factors, economic factors, social and cultural factors, technological factors. Okay, so economic factors also make a lot of difference. Look at the cars. The same brand of car, if you drive in India, say Honda City, and same Honda City, maybe with different brand name, you drive in Europe, specifications will be different. Okay, certain features would be a common standard features or there for the sake of safety, but here for want of economy, they would be compromised with. Okay, and therefore economic factors also one must consider, no doubt about it.
Thank you so much for such an interesting and a very, very insightful session that we have had.
Thank you, Pragya. Thank you so much and I must thank you and Mr. Sanjay for inviting me to interact with such a learned audience. It's always a pleasure to be a part of CMO.
Thank you so much once again.